question is about guitar tones and recording guitar tones. So how would you approach a session or a particular guitar tone if you know that the guitar sound that this guitarist wants is going to be very hard to make work in the mix?
Yeah. Most of the time, very rarely has somebody been argumentative if I explain to them, this is different than what it sounds like in your bedroom. Mm-hmm. This isn't about like what it sounds like on its own. This is what it's going to sound like collectively. And most time people will trust me and they'll like, okay, I got that, you know, and they'll let me do my tweaks. Yeah. If somebody's really obstinate about it, typically what I'll do is I'll record a DI of it along with it, and that gives me the option to reamp it later.
Right.
And so many times what seems really important in that moment, like a guy digging in his heels, like, no, this is my tone, he's not going to remember that 3 weeks later when you send back a mix and his guitar sounds full and big and it blends. Yeah. He's not going to even know.
Yeah, and you probably would EQ it anyway at some point.
Absolutely.
Through the mixing station.
So instead of painting myself into a corner, I'll just take a DI of it and, you know, leave some flexibility.
Right. Yeah, it's also kind of the handling of egos. So like, this is what I want, this is how I want it, and then you're like, well, maybe I know a little bit more about this particular aspect because we are in here, and not in your bedroom like you said before. So it's a lot about, you know, psychology and what we've been discussing before.
It is, and it's funny because people's perception of what tone is, like rock guitar, like you think of like big, like classic rock guitar records like Led Zeppelin or AC/DC, and people come into this idea that everything is super saturated, and it's really not. It's, you know, so much of it is more about your right hand, and so helping somebody understand, like, hey, when you play this part, if your wrist doesn't hurt a little bit by the time you're done, you're probably not playing it right. So your forearm should burn. So let's not just reach for the gain and make it easy. Let's make it sound good. And I think people respond to challenges like that a lot of times. It's, you know, most of the time people are pretty agreeable.
Cool. All right, I wanted to end this series of Inside Saint Cecilia Studios talking about budget. And of course, if the readers and viewers want to ask any questions, we might jump back in and do a follow-up interview or follow-up, you know, Q&A.
Sure.
But let's talk a little bit about budgets, and especially in the modern age when nobody has any money, major labels are dying, people are recording demos in their studio or in their bedroom studios that they just want to compete with the big recording studios. Yeah. So how do you, as a studio owner, deal with that?
Well, I think embracing the change is a big part of it. You know, complaining about it or having infinite amounts of conversations about how I wish it was different doesn't do anybody any good. So you adapt and you find other ways to do it. You know, for me, it's like I might work on a commercial project where I'm doing 2 minutes of composition for an online campaign, and that might subsidize the indie band that doesn't have the big budget. And so you just kind of find ways to fill in the gaps doing other stuff. Mm-hmm. I try to set up a studio so that other people can use the room. If it's not my client, people can bring their clients in here. So you kind of find ways to adapt.
Yeah. Do you feel like it's more beneficial, or do you look at it that it's more beneficial to do it per project than per hour, because just from a musical standpoint than a business standpoint?
Yeah, it's a terrible business model. It really is. However, yeah, I don't do hourly. I mean, for all intents and purposes, I don't. Sometimes something will come in where that's the only natural solution. But typically, it's like it starts with a conversation. Well, what's your project? What's your budget? What are your goals for that? And then to kind of figure out the best way to allocate the time and the money to get the best bang for that artist. Right. The reason I don't do hourly is because I've found that nobody is as creative or comfortable if they're staring at their watch wondering how much it just costs that they screwed up a guitar take, or that we're spending a little bit of time on the drum sound, because I know that if we just spend another 45 minutes, the drums are going to go from here to here. But yeah, you can't do it from a business, like that is, it really is a terrible business model. Mm-hmm. However, I have yet to regret ever spending the extra time to get it done right.
Right.
You know, the other day, when you were over here earlier, we were resetting up the drums.
Oh, yes.
We got 80% into the song and realized, like, man, it's not there. The song completely changed directions, and the drums from the original performance weren't working.
Yeah. So it was because the song didn't have a chorus, and you felt like it should have a chorus. So once it had a chorus, it completely changed feel and vibe.
It did. What we thought was the chorus originally in pre-production ended up being a pre-chorus.
Uh-huh.
And it just, the further we got into it, it's like, man, the chorus isn't there. So we spent another couple hours and it's like, let's write a chorus. We got a really great chorus, and it changed everything, which meant all the drums went away. They had to get scrapped. So spent another few hours resetting everything up and reworking out a new drum part. Mm-hmm. No regrets.
Cool.
The song is better for it, and she wasn't worried about it because I'm not charging her per hour.
Right.
She's paying me because, for my taste, essentially. You know, it's like I'm selling people on my taste.
Yeah. So it's really a win-win for everybody, even though you're not losing out on any real money, because you're gonna win out in productivity and output of music in the long run.
Yeah, and if that song ends up sounding great, and that's only good for me too. I mean, it's not a completely selfless act where it's, you know, just, you know, whipping myself. Yes, I'll do it again.
Yeah.
You know, it's like, I know that if I get this song right, it reflects on me and the work I do, and it's good for everybody.
Cool. All right, that concludes our series of Inside Saint Cecilia Studios. I hope you enjoyed it. If you have any questions or want to ask Steven anything, we might do a couple of follow-up videos as well. So thanks for listening, thanks for watching. Hop on over to audioissues.com and subscribe there for more tips and tricks. And go on over to stceciliastudios.com to know more about the studio and Steven. Thank you, Steven. It's been very insightful and educational.
Yeah, you bet.
All right.
Thanks.